Some business news for you now. Kate Moody's with us in the studio. Hi there, Kate.
Hi, Laura.
Looking ahead to this trade deal, it feels like we've been waiting a really long time, don't we? The United States and China are finally going to agree to end any more tariffs on each other's trade.
Well, they're going to be signing the phase one deal that goes a little ways
Right.
towards that, Laura. But we do understand that many of the existing tariffs will, in fact, remain in place for the coming months, at least while they try to negotiate the second phase. Now, it's all a bit complicated, but we know that the Chinese delegation has arrived in Washington ready to seal that agreement there. The ceasefire was announced a month ago, but the details have yet to be published. Cami Nedlek has this report.
After 2 years, a breakthrough. The US and China are expected to sign a huge trade deal on Wednesday.
China-US economic and trade relations will make new progress on the basis of mutual benefits, which will not only be beneficial to China and the US, but also to the entire world.
Both sides have been reticent on the specifics, but according to the US, China has agreed to buy $200 billion more of American goods over 2 years, which includes around $75 billion worth of manufactured goods, along with services, agriculture, and $50 billion worth of energy, though analysts warn China doesn't have the infrastructure to cope with an influx of American oil. It's understood there'll also be provisions to protect the intellectual property rights of American companies, including addressing forced technology transfer, which compels American companies to share their know-how with local partners. If China doesn't hold up its end of the deal, the US could reimpose tariffs.
Okay, so I think it would be a choose fight cycle between China and the United States, and so both sides will continue to try to build a strategic advantage against the other.
This is just phase one, but it comes during a politically charged time for US President Donald Trump as he woos voters ahead of running for his second term in November. He said phase two may not be concluded until after the election.
Meanwhile, Beijing has welcomed Washington's decision to remove it from a list of currency manipulators, insisting it had never been one. The Trump administration imposed the largely symbolic label in August, accusing China of seeking an unfair advantage for its exports. The U.S. Treasury Secretary says that China has since made enforceable commitments to not competitively devalue the yuan. Well, investors around the world will be watching those trade developments very closely. Wall Street has pared back some of its earlier gains, the Dow Jones dropping back from its new record high and that 29,000 mark. Shares of Delta Airlines are up about 3.5% on better than expected earnings. It was boosted by lower fuel costs and strong travel demand. Earlier, the major European indices closed ever so slightly higher after a rather choppy session. Shares of the London-listed Tullow Oil continued their fall, dropping 5% to the bottom of the European benchmark. The car makers Renault and Nissan have denied reports that their alliance is in trouble, reaffirming their commitment to their 20-year partnership. Both companies have suffered since the arrest of the alliance's architect, Carlos Ghosn, on charges of financial misconduct at Nissan. He denies all those charges against him and has fled from Japan to Lebanon. The French government, which is a major stakeholder in Renault, says that a new chief executive could be named within days to help steer the company into its next chapter. And Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire dismissed the report of trouble as malicious rumors.
People can look for its origin, but that doesn't interest me. It's malicious information. I don't believe it. They were rumors made to destabilize the group, create uncertainty at a moment where, on the contrary, we're straightening up the alliance between Renault and Nissan, which, it's true, went through great difficulties.
Moving on to some of the day's other business headlines now. German prosecutors have brought fraud charges against 6 more former executives at Volkswagen. They're accused of intentionally misleading customers in the US and Europe, convincing them to buy cars with rigged emissions software. 11 individuals, including the former CEO Martin Winterkorn, have now been charged in relation to the carmaker's diesel emissions scandal. Dozens more are under investigation. French supermarket chain Auchan will cut some 500 jobs. The restructuring calls for the voluntary departure of office and support staff, not those working in stores. Like its rival Carrefour, Auchan is struggling to adapt to customers' new shopping habits, which include more online orders and a switch to local providers rather than hypermarkets. And JP Morgan Chase has reported record profits for the fourth quarter, rising 21% to top $8.5 billion. The investment bank was boosted by strong trading results and a brightening economic outlook. Other American banks will be reporting their earnings throughout the week. While the world's biggest money manager says it's doubling down on the fight against climate change, BlackRock says that in the coming months it will cut down its investments in companies that earn more than a quarter of their revenue from coal production. BlackRock manages some $7 trillion worth of assets. Environmental activists said they would wait to see action to back up that rhetoric. CEO Larry Fink writes that he expects a, quote, fundamental reshaping of finance as corporations try to balance profits with their promise to go green. He said climate change is now the top issue that his clients are raising. Well, it will also be one of the hot topics at the World Economic Forum, which kicks off in Davos next week. The theme of this year's gathering is Stakeholders for a Cohesive and Sustainable World. There will be pressure on both business and political leaders to announce concrete climate commitments. WEF founder Klaus Schwab said he's encouraging the event's partners to go carbon neutral.
Environmental responsibility is very part of the stakeholder responsibility of business. The window is closing and the time which is available to act is becoming shorter and shorter.
Environmental activist Greta Thunberg among the high-profile names that will be attending.
Oh, interesting. All right, Kate, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much.